o'clock. Call this regularly scheduled meeting of Town Council to order. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Did we deal with that at elementary school? Perfect. Yes, we did. Okay. Hearing none, motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Councilor Thorburn, seconded by Mayor Tanner. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Announcements for anything that's coming up. I always look to Councilor Graves because you always have something on the go.
I don't. A lot of pressure. Too much pressure. We have skating.
We're skating.
Yes.
Did we set a date?
I'm not quite sure.
We did.
Was it Sunday?
Sunday at
Sunday?
Sounds
5:30.
So
I think so. It'll be on the town's Facebook page and website. So the town council is sponsoring a free skate at the LCLC. And the other is that during March break, transit is free for our youth and students, which is awesome. Quite a few people on the bus today when I saw it, but you have
75
to,
at 3.
you have to really look through the windows because otherwise it looks like it's empty, but it's not. Sorry?
5:30.
5:30. 5:30 on Sunday, free skate. Anything else that council has coming up in the next couple weeks now? All right. We're a little early, but I think our delegation is here for the bike night. So, Mr. Noss, did you want to come up and kind of give us an overview of your presentation? Make sure you introduce yourself, and the podium is yours for 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name's Doug Noss. I'm the founder of Motorcycle Maritimers. So Motorcycle Maritimers started out as a Facebook group established March 31st, 2016, focused on 3 values: motorcycles, mutual respect, and maritime proud. We currently have over 2,000 members, contrary to what that says. It's growing every day. In our closed group, and another 270 followers on our public page. We also recently set up a website which includes maritime motorcycle events. There's a ride forum so people can get together and just kind of have impromptu rides, get together. It's just a social aspect. There's also a blog where I'll just write up about the random stuff, events that I may have been to. Like I did one for Motorcycle and Power Sport Atlantic show that was in Halifax there last weekend. So my goal is to make Motorcycle Maritimers a recognizable brand or image in the maritime motorcycle community while promoting our founding values. To help realize my goal, I have established a small online kit shop with t-shirts, patches, and decals to foster support because bikers love swag. The next step is to plan an event. The intent is to organize a motorcycle rally in the downtown core of Bridgewater to celebrate motorcycles and community. We want to bring both the motorcycle and local communities together in this, together as one in the celebration. Kind of think Wharf Rat Rally, just at a much smaller scale. All right, we're not there. My hope is to make this a reoccurring annual event in Bridgewater's downtown. Events like these tend to grow and evolve from year to year. Bikers like to travel from hours away to go to such events just because they like to have an excuse to get over the road, like to ride. Right? So our plan. When? Saturday, July 21st, 2018. From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's just a 4-hour window. We're looking at King Street between Empire and Dominion, including Town Center parking lot and King Street Court. The event will require a street closure. I've been in contact with the traffic authority through Nick Brown and have his approval in theory. The actual permit has already been submitted, so I'm just waiting to hear back on that. We plan on making a donation a donation will be made to the Bridgewater Skate Park from the event proceeds. We'll have a raffle set up so people can buy tickets towards it. Plus, we'll also have just a donation bucket there. So people, it's all about supporting the community, right? So the evening's festivities being planned include a variety of vendors, to include food vendors, There'll be live entertainment, draws, fundraisers, giveaways, and friendly motorcycle competitions like slow races and like crowd favorite or show and shine. To date, I have confirmed vendors of Motorcycle Maritimer's kit shop, so my stuff, South Shore Chair Massage, Wolf Spirits, which is motorcycle accessories and apparel, Go Nuts Donuts, which is Little Orbits, MJ Street Side Grill, and Scentsy. I think they do like scented candles and stuff. Also have Privateers Harley Davidson, Honda Powerhouse, and Shore Cycle also showing interest, so just have to wait confirmation on them. The event is being designed to be family friendly, inclusive, and free to attend. And we are hoping to have a local motorcycle group like South Shore Untitled Chapter organize a charity ride leading into the rally with proceeds possibly going towards the skate park as well. So, our layout. The yellow is motorcycle parking, so along King Street. The right-hand lane, when you're traveling from Empire to Dominion, will be motorcycle travel only, just one-way travel. Town Center parking lot will be our vendor squares, that's where we'll put all our vendors. Down at King Street Court, that's where we'll have the band down there and any other live entertainment that we bring in, that'll all be focused in that park area. And that parking space right in front of King Street Court, that's where we'll have our competitions, so slow races, show and shine, or crowd favorite. So King Street business that would directly benefit from our setup here is obviously Firkenstein's. They're on board. I've already talked to them. Jack's Burgers and Shakes, they're definitely on board. Artistic Issues, I haven't talked to him yet, but I'm pretty sure he'd be on board as well. And Wine Kings are on board. So just to give you an understanding, a similar event, Devil's Half Acre motorcycle event in Kempville, Nova Scotia. Last year was their first year. They held it on the 17th of June. It was a one-day event. It was cold, wet, rainy day that day, but it was still successful. A lot of people went out. This year is their second year. They're running it from 16th to 17th of June, so a full weekend, two-day event. So obviously it was successful enough last year with the rain that they were able to grow this event. The community there in Kempville is very involved. They have a fire department breakfast every year with it. A lot of the businesses are very, very supportive, and obviously the town there is all aboard it, and they fully endorse and support and sponsor the event. So our request to council. We are requesting that the town council consider absorbing the cost associated with public works staff opening and closing the street. We request that the town council consider recognizing this event as a special event and as such gain exemption from the vending bylaw. We request that the town consider providing in-kind power supply at the town center parking lot in King Street Court. And we request assistance from the town in promoting this event through the social media channels and quarterly newsletter of the Bridge. In doing such, we'd also publish the town in our social media and our website as an event supporter and obviously a sponsor. So thank you for taking time to consider these requests. The motorcycle community is quite diverse with its wide array of riders, motorcycles, and enthusiasts. We're very excited to try to bring it to the town. And I will continue to work with the town and the Bridgewater Area Chamber of Commerce, especially Dan Hennessy. He's been really helping me to make sure all the businesses stay open that's in that area to try to boost the economy there. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much. Any questions from members of council? Councilor McDonald first.
What kind of competitions would you be holding?
It'll be like a slow race. So slow race instead of opposite of a normal race where everybody wants to get there as quick as they can. The object is that you get a start line, you get to the other end, and you try to do it as slow as you can. It's a skills thing.
Okay, I get it now.
It's all about skills.
That took me a moment to process.
Yeah, and then there's a show and shine, so people will either vote on what their favorite bike would be and that kind of stuff, right? Nothing crazy. We thought about like loudest bike and that kind of stuff, but we didn't want to be too disruptive in downtown, so we kept it pretty tame.
Councillor Graves.
Stollery sounds fun. How many bikers do you expect? Do you have an idea?
Right now, I have, on Facebook, I have an event page set up for this. I have about 230 people showing interest in attending.
Wow.
That's just on there. Now, obviously, as we get closer, more people will want to take part. It's hard to really estimate because it's a first event,
Yeah.
but being a fairly central area, only an hour outside of Halifax, and you get Shelburne and everything on that end, I foresee we'll get a decent number, enough to make it successful, I would think, and hopefully grow from that.
Okay.
Other questions from members of council?
I guess for clarification, perhaps on our internal processes, what's the process for approving this kind of event? And like, does it have to go through town council? Are staff able to approve it? Is there insurance requirements? All that kind of fun stuff. Perhaps for the CAO.
Yeah, so what I expected today is that we can take this back for a report on that.
Okay.
There's a number of things in there that I think we can do at a staff level. However, if there's a request, ultimately, I think we would need to use some of our grants to organizations money or something to fund for the consideration. So we could have something back quite quickly on
Okay.
this.
Perfect.
Councillor McDonald.
Just wanted to thank you for thinking of the Bridgewater Skate Park. It will mean a lot to me.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I was excited about that line in the presentation. Yeah, so our normal process is after we have a delegation, it would come back to council at a future meeting,
Okay.
giving us time to kind of process it, ask questions, get staff enough time to get questions to you for some
Absolutely.
answers.
Yep.
Does anyone
And
know?
Patrick Hurdle's already brought up both and Nick Brown, the insurance aspect of it, so I'm gonna touch base with my insurance company and try to get event insurance set up, and then tee up with the town insurance person, whoever it is, and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Do you have any rough numbers on how many people showed up to the Kentville one? Just, I
That
know
one
you
I'm
said it
not
was cold and
sure.
rainy, but.
But I can go by, they have a swap meet at Michelin every year. I think they've had it for 4 years now, so it's a little bit smaller, it's just a swap meet, and they had 400 people go through the doors there. That's just a swap meet, so I estimate at least probably 400. That's what my ballpark is gonna be, but it can go either way. It's hard to really say.
Yeah, Councillor Thorburn.
Hopefully it's successful and we'll all benefit, and maybe to be a two-day event, maybe next year or the year.
That's our intent, is to try to grow it if we can, yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Excellent. No, thank you for the presentation. Any further questions? No? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I see our next delegation is here. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but Gail Sinclair and Marcy Rogers are here representing the Bridgewater Elementary School Playground Committee to give us a project update.
Good evening. Hello again. Thank you for having us here tonight. The Playground Committee would like to thank you for the opportunity to address Council this evening. Your time, your interest, and your support through this project has helped us to achieve completion, and we can't thank you enough for that support. So first of all, we just wanted to express that. The project plan, just as a refresher, as you recall, it's very large. The playground expands the entire 4.5-acre property around Bridgewater Elementary School, and also some behind the Bridgewater Junior High building. So this drawing is the overall drawing. You would have seen it before, but we're showing you here is the actual phases that we're working on. The orientation, the elementary school course is in the middle with York Street at the bottom and Queen Street at the top. So we have two large phases of this project. Phase 1 is where we're working currently. It's the central portion between those two red lines where our grades 2 and 6 play. And Phase 2 work is on both sides of those red line. On the left-hand side is our primary to 1 playground. And on the other side, in behind the junior high building, that is where the older children's swing area is. In the circle portion in the middle of the drawing, that's the area that we completed last fall. And we have submitted another written request to council. I understand that it's an agenda item this evening. So part of your 2017-18 operating budget, you answered our request and provided grant funds allocated towards Phase 1 of the playground project in the amount of $72,883, a very generous gesture on the town's commitment for this project. So our accomplishments this year so far in that area that I showed on the map, last summer as the summer was approaching, the final deteriorated playground structure was removed, and that's when you responded quickly to our urgent request and released 50% of that grant fund. Work began right away. This was a big help towards completing a substantial play area in the Phase 1 by the time school resumed in September. And we dubbed these areas, we call them the hill and the obstacle course, and again, I can't express how important completing these sections were by September, so that the kids had something to play on as school opened, not only for the school but also for the other playground users. This photo was just taken last week. The staff from one of the daycares, Small World, often says to me how much they are enjoying the work that we've done so far, so again, thank you. These are the two areas. This is the hill and the obstacle course, how it looked in the concept drawing, and how it looked when it was finished. So tonight we just want to say thank you again, recognizing that hard work and commitment and how working together we can transform from a concept to an actual finished playground. So the cost for that completed work fell within our expected costs. We did experience some challenges. Bedrock, namely, was one of the biggest challenges. And we were the recipients of monetary donations, but also labor and materials, and that made a huge impact. This portion of the project was finished successfully. We got it done on the time commitment that we made to have it done by September, and it was a success in regards to cost, but also the finished product. We're very, very happy with the finished work that we have. So once again, here we are, construction season looming around the corner, and the urgency of completing as much of the next work in the project as possible is very critical. To be ready, we need to be preparing tender documents and contract documents now for the next work. The amount of work that we'll be able to do next is going to be determined solely on actual funds that we have available. We're going to focus first on completing Phase 1. The progression will be on the area next to the completed area. I have it in a large circle area in yellow. That'll be where we'll focus next. There's a robust Nautilus climbing structure that will be installed, and again, our focus is to bring as much play into the playground as we can, as quickly as we can. We may also be able to begin work at the top, and that's in a quieter garden area where we have a lot of quiet areas. There's actually a log fort where kids can go and have quieter play in that area. And another option is the smaller circle, the smaller yellow circle, where there's an anticipated stone amphitheater classroom. The school is very excited about that getting installed. Optimistically, we could look into Phase 2 for further work, and that would include some of the blue circles that we've added on there. So that's kind of our phased look at where we're going to go this construction year. So in Phase 1, the remaining work that we have landscaping and planting, site amenities, natural play features, traditional play equipment. This is the Nautilus structure. That is our first priority to get that in. As you can see, it's quite a unique piece, and it's going to bring a lot of value to the playground. There's another traditional play equipment that we're installing. The outdoor classroom, the amphitheater classroom, there's a concept drawing of what that looks like. Of course, things like playground drainage, protective surfacing. We have a rainbow trunk ruler, we call it, that we're installing with posts. There's painted games all throughout the playground, and also we have a shelter. It looks like a log fort. And there's the cost for finishing Phase 1. So the bare cost for completing Phase 1, the total will be $162,975. This is before taxes, and this is not taking in consideration any contingency costs. Phase 2, if we look into Phase 2, we've got two priorities here. If we get funding exceeding the Phase 1, we will move into this area, and we have two areas that we'd like to focus on, again, with bringing in as much play as we can back into the playground. So we're prioritizing those, and we've selected these two traditional pieces. One is a Tot's Choice, and the other is called a Max Play Swings. And you may remember at the beginning, we wanted to have a playground that's totally inclusive, so we have a a swing there that is an adaptive swing. Most schools have these, Bridgewater does not, so the school's very excited about getting that swing installed. The estimated cost for those two pieces are $25,000 and $7,500. So funding scenarios, I kind of have 3 funding scenarios to present to you. The first one, we have confirmed money. We have been raising money ongoing, continuously since this started. So our bank account right now is at about $38,000. That may be just enough to install that Nautilus climbing instructor. With your approval to release the remaining 50% of the grant funds and added that to these confirmed funds, we would have almost $75,000. So along with that Nautilus structure, we'd be able to complete other portions of Phase 1, certainly not all of it. The committee, again, is very interested in installing that outdoor amphitheater classroom. And the last scenario that I have there, the best scenario, includes other pending sponsors and grants. All we know at this point is we have a potential to increase available funds to somewhere between that $75,000 up to possibly $236,000. We're currently waiting some final confirmation from some other sponsors and grants. And if those expectations are met, we could quite possibly finish Phase 1 and begin work into Phase 2. By the end of March, the committee would like to make a decision on what work we will proceed with based on known funds, and after that time, if we wait past that, we fear that we'll be in jeopardy of finding contractors, shortage of those contractors. We felt that last year when we started the work. Also timelines to get things shipped in, the manufactured pieces, and also getting those donated labor and materials secured. So that's it. We appreciate your time tonight, considering our request again, and we look forward to your continued support.
Thank you, Gail. Any questions from members of council? No? Not one question? Councilor Frazier.
Just to be clear, for Phase 1, what percentage are you completed for Phase 1 right now?
And a percentage?
Yeah, just, or dollar amount, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking 30. 30 was my first thought, yeah. I'd say about
30% of Phase 1 is complete?
I would say 30.
Okay. And your timeline to complete Phase 1 is by the start of the next school year?
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilor Graves.
So is fundraising being well received by the community, the business community? Parents, how's that going?
It's going really well. It's just really hard to fundraise a lot of money from parents in our school. So, but parents have been supportive. Like we just had a school dance for the kids at the school, and it raised almost $1,000, and that's at $10 a person. So parents are bringing their children to those things. We had a blueberry fundraiser, and we raised money. We also had a craft and vendor fair just before Christmas, and it was quite well attended. It's the first year that we've done some of these things. We sold the Nourish Your Roots boxes. I'm not sure if you've heard of that program, but it's really great. It connects local farmers with produce, with people, and they get boxes of produce from local farmers, and that was really well received too. So parents are supportive. It's just, it takes a long time to fundraise a lot of money through.
You still doing Fun Day?
Yes.
You still do Fun Day?
Yes, yeah. Fun Day is run by Home and School, which is separate from the Playground Committee, but they have generously set aside most of their funds for our playground fund, which is really good, and it's kind of almost, it's hard for our classroom teachers because they would get a lot more of that money too. So the more that we can fundraise outside for our playground, then the less the Fun Day has to give to us. So therefore, more goes back into classrooms for the kids directly too. So, so it's hard. It's spreading it around delicately.
And has the province come on board?
Well, we just actually are waiting to hear from 2 grants from the province. One is a recreation grant. The application was due the end of January, and we usually hear around beginning of April, mid-April. So we're waiting to hear. We have some grant applications out that we're just waiting to hear a response from.
Okay.
I know that in the original proposal, the school board had said that they were going to do some in-kind work. Is that, they've
Yes.
followed through with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Any other questions?
Are we supposed to get an agreement between the South Shore Regional School Board, the Bridgewater Elementary, and the town in terms of the management and maintenance?
We were supposed to get an agreement with the school board for all facilities.
Yeah.
Where that is, I don't know. I thought we left the ball in their court for that. I'm looking at you, Deputy Mayor Tanner, because I think you probably had the last piece of communication, but were they not reviewing?
I think our CAO might have more current information on that.
I don't have an update
Okay.
on where that would sit.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm actually, at this point, I'm not sure who the agreement would be with the board.
Well, now we can't go to our school board rep, so we'll have to talk to, is it Brian that we talked to?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
we'll,
that we'll have to
we'll
reach
talk to him
out
and
around.
find out who that is. That's a good question. Any other questions from members of council? That's great.
Just a comment, it's encouraging that Small World is using it, I'm sure the Y, Bridgewater Elementary
Yes.
and others, so it's nice to see that it's continuing to be a community playground, and so it's good,
It
thank you.
is for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to come as a delegation? No? Okay. Correspondence for information, we have a letter from the Office of the Minister of Public Safety regarding David and Catherine Wright. As you recall, a few weeks ago, we signed a letter of support along with Municipality District of Lunenburg and Town of Shelburne. The Wrights were, they've been here for years and were approved to stay, and then upon further review, were told that they were going to be deported. So the letter attached basically says, thank you for your letter, but we won't be changing our minds. So I feel for the Wrights. Certainly that community is going to feel the impact of them not being around, so disappointing. Any questions on that? Correspondence for action, FCM 2018 Conference Advisory Committee Sponsorship Program. As we know, the FCM is at the beginning of June. It is in Halifax this year. And so HRM has reached out to Bridgewater and other communities looking for, to gain interest in sponsorship packages. So that is there for any questions you have. And you can gather more information or refer this to staff for report. Deputy Mayor Tanner.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what we're supposed to do with it. Can you explain it to me?
My understanding is we're supposed to look and see if there's a level of support that we want to engage in.
Right, that was my first impression.
Yeah.
So one would ask why municipalities are supporting or are being asked to sponsor, only in the sense that municipalities spend a tremendous amount of money with the private sector each year, and why isn't the private sector stepping up for sponsorship?
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
saw it as the private sector jumps into the trade show aspect.
Yeah.
And they're looking for sponsors for just put your name on here and you get a couple of tickets to some of the events. I looked through it and I can't see where we would jump in on it, but.
Good.
I mean, I think
Okay.
the lowest one $4,000 was,
Yeah.
you know, and you got.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
50 grand?
Yeah,
So,
okay, all right.
I look at it as, already the conference fee is $800+ we're sending people. That's kind of the revenue that I think that they're gonna
Okay.
get. That's just me, but, you know, we can just choose to do nothing with it, or we can refer this to staff for a report. If council doesn't feel that it warrants a report and they're just interested in maybe receiving it for information and doing nothing with it, we can just receive it as information if you like.
Should we perhaps, I assume we have a list of vendors we deal with and their email addresses, could we fire it out to them and say, hey, here's something to consider as part of being supportive of that conference? No.
Not really supposed to share information like that when we
Oh,
collect
boy,
information
tough
for one
tonight.
purpose. It's not for
Okay.
selling sponsorship.
But we know that some of our vendors do already sponsor
Yeah,
the
sure,
FCM,
sure.
the one last year, you know, insurance and other large vendors like that, they
Okay.
already sponsor probably a few levels above where we were gonna be. So, is council just willing to just entertain this as information, and if it,
I would say so,
yeah,
based on what I'm hearing.
you're happier with that anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Building permit application report for February 2018. Looks like Ms. McDonald's in the hot seat if anyone has questions about that one.
I thought you meant me.
No, we're gonna have to give you guys nicknames.
Yeah. Not Jay McDonald. Yeah.
Mrs. J. McDonald. Yeah. Any questions on that? You can reach out to Mr. Feener, who would be more than happy to answer those.
I like that new report. You can really see what's going on.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Pass that along to staff, please.
Yeah, that was a good change
Great change.
to add there, and good for the public to see as well.
Yeah.
Recommendation, South Shore Regional Enterprise Network Liaison and Oversight Committee Budget Development. So we did receive a request for a budget increase from the REN, and so there is a recommendation in here to ask them to develop two budgets. So I'd just like to open the floor up for a motion and discussion.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater direct the South Shore Regional Enterprise Network Board to develop two budgets, one with and one without the proposed funding increment as per Schedule B of document 18-039.
Seconder, please.
Second that motion.
Councilor Thorburn, discussion.
Well, if you're gonna ask for money, you gotta explain why you need it.
Yeah, and I do like the idea of presenting two budgets so that we
budgets,
see both. Councilor Thorburn, you're on that.
When we
committee.
just discussed that and I was on it, it was our recommendation from our committee to prepare two budgets so that if we didn't get any increased funding, we could go forward with our own budget. So this is just passing that information on to the different municipal units, but we had always intended to make up two budgets, one with the actual and one with the proposed increases. So,
Okay.
okay?
Good.
With no further questions, ready for the motion, or ready for the the vote? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Recommendation, Director of Finance, signing authorities. Pretty straightforward. There are times that both myself and Deputy Mayor are unavailable to sign a lot of things. There's a lot of things to sign. So the recommendation here is to add, for now, Councillor McGinnis as an additional signing authority, just on those those rare occasions that both of us are away. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Frazier?
Yes, Your Worship, that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater amend the town's signing authorities to add a third elected official as an authorized signature when the mayor and deputy mayor are unavailable, and that this signature be that of Councillor Bill McGinnis.
Seconder? Councillor McDonald? Any further questions? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Transit Operations 2018-19 Provincial Funding. So as we know, a few weeks ago, we had a wonderful announcement from the province of $200,000 towards our transit system, to work towards at least extending that as a demonstration project so we can gather more information and before we make a decision whether it's going to be a permanent viable entity in the town. So there is a recommendation here to kind of make that formal, that extension for 1 year. So I'll open the floor to, if anyone has questions, we can do questions first before we put the motion on the floor. Councilor Frazier?
Yeah, I have a question. So for the employment opportunities, the drivers, I understand, are under contract now, which, does that end when our projected pilot was ending? Do they have to reapply where we're extending transit operations? I guess, how does it affect the bus drivers' employment?
Okay, so their current contract is for the pilot project.
Right.
And there's a requirement in that letter to reapply if the project is made permanent. So that does allow us to offer an extension for it's continuing in pilot phase. So we could offer, we will be.
So they would have to
offering extension.
reapply?
They would not have to
Oh, they-
reapply yet.
No,
yet.
so.
So we
so
would
on
be
March
in a position
31st,
to offer.
2019, they will have to reapply. It's only if we
Yes.
change to a permanent system.
At this
Okay.
point.
That's good. That was the same question I had.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? No, someone prepared to make a motion? Oh, Deputy Mayor Chan, you
So
have a question?
the motion doesn't specify whether it's an extension of the pilot. It just talks about existing. Do we need to build in the word pilot to make sure the public is aware that this is another round and we want you to use it, we want you to make use of it?
That's a good question.
It provides clarity, I think, as to,
So through the mayor to council, the funding commitment will continue transit until at least March 31st, 2019. It's our intention, though, that we're migrating from a pilot and really demonstrating it. We intend to, at budget time, bring forward a plan to extend this commitment for 2 years. But that will pend consideration of the budget and how we allocate some monies towards this. At this point, we'd like to execute this document, commit to the additional year, but it's really all about I guess a transit program's always going to be contingent on the current experience. So if we go 5 years and all of a sudden transit's not working, it could stop. My expectation with this is that, we're moving beyond a pilot, demonstrating, continuing to build capacity. And sorry for the long answer.
No.
But it's going beyond a pilot, and we're really proving things now.
So I guess it's to your point, because we don't want any confusion in the public, this is in no way, shape, or form making transit a permanent fixture in Bridgewater. This motion, to what you're saying, is extending this a year.
Yep.
The budget will determine if the funding is there for 2 years, and then council after council will have to make that call based on ridership, funding,
Okay.
and how that goes. Am I about right on that one?
Yes.
Yeah, I was waiting till you
You're
were
always
drinking, and then
right.
I was going to ask you the question. Councilor McDonald.
How far out are we on that report from the Dell students?
We're not that far, actually, about a month till we have a final report. So we're expecting that we have a draft version of the report by the end of the month, and that then we'll have opportunity to review and receive a finalized. I believe it's due for their coursework on April 10th, so we should have that
Okay.
the same day.
Just to follow
Yep.
up on that, one of my concerns is if we have transit in town for a year and a half, we've created an expectation that's very, very difficult to take away, despite the fact that it's been communicated that it's a pilot. People will rely on it for their employment, for their education, for family, for medical. Very difficult to take that away. So I want to be confident going forward that, I'm about 99% sure that we're going to keep this going. And that report plays a big piece in me feeling that level of confidence. How would it impact to do this after the Dow report comes?
So, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but actually this will work quite well, and really what we're trying to do here is create council the opportunity to make that robust decision. This report will come in time for the start of budget consideration,
Okay.
so you'll see that. As we've talked in our previous updates, we've surpassed our ridership projections, we're beating our budget projections, all of our outcomes we're achieving, so things are continuing to prove that. The report's going to show that, but demonstrate it much better. So
Okay.
we're confident that that sort of information will help council make a decision on their commitment to transit.
Great,
So
thank you.
And this motion more or less addresses the money from the province.
Right.
And that we're committing to put it to use for the next year. So versus the weight being on, we're making transit, it's more about how we're using the money and as the motion will say, executing the grant agreement.
Right.
So no big decision is being made until budget time when the report will be available
Okay.
as well.
Yeah,
Councilor.
I agree with the deputy mayor. I'd like to see pilot, because that's what we're doing in that motion, because we're extending the pilot. It's still the pilot until we make it permanent. And it's either one or the other.
Well, I think the words we've been using is demonstration, moving from pilot to a demonstration phase.
What is the difference? Is it still a pilot until it's permanent?
I don't know what the difference is, other than the pilot is how the other levels of government see pilot. And Ms. McDonald, maybe you can.
I believe it's sort of a funding definition.
Okay.
We've received 6 months of pilot funding
We did.
from the Department of Municipal
Yes, we
Affairs.
did.
So this is from a different department at the provincial government, but they want to demonstrate the continued value.
Yeah.
So I believe it's,
But I believe at one point in time, we was considering extending the pilot project itself, or talking about that at some conversations, but I'm happy either way.
It's up to council. I mean,
I'll bring that motion forward, you wish?
sure.
We move that town council of the town of Bridgewater authorize the mayor and CEO to execute the grant agreement as presented in document 16-051K and extend the transit operations to March the 31st, 2019, pending approval of the 2018-19 budget for the town.
Have a seconder, please. Councilor McDonald, further discussion?
Question?
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Glen Allen Connector Trail budget increase is the next item, document 17-176A. And I'm going to put this out there right away for clarification that this is not our money. This is accessing money from the province. So I don't want there to be any confusion that the increase in the budget is not coming from the town of Bridgewater. This is to access, this is the accessibility money from the province to make the trail accessible. So this was in the original plan to make the trail accessible, but this is to formally use that funding given to us by the province. So I just want to make that, because I was confused, so I want to make that clear. Deputy Mayor Tanner.
I can't remember if we've read about it or not, but have we secured that piece of land that allows it to connect through?
That's a good question.
that's in progress, but yes, there's an agreement in principle.
Okay,
The legal work is in progress.
perfect.
Great. Any other questions?
No.
On that trail? Councilor Thurman?
We've already received the 10,000, haven't we, for this?
I think we've received a commitment for the 10,000. Do we not have to make the adjustments to the trail
Yes.
entrance in order to?
We've received the funding from the Provincial Community Accessibility Grant. And this is an increase over the budget that was currently, well, in this year's budget. So we need the approval in order to use that money and complete the work.
So we did receive the money. Okay. Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Chan, you look like you have another question.
So is this, or is this not an increase in the budget
No.
No.
for the total project?
Through the mayor to council, in the November report, it showed the original approved capital project was $36,000. In the update in November, which is included in the attachment, it was projected that we were going to need $50-something thousand to complete the project to accessibility standards. We had put out some funding requests that we were denied, so we hadn't received that monies. Most recently, we were able to secure $10,000, which we can work with to complete this project, making the trail accessible. So this is an increase to the original budget, but it's as per that update of
Okay,
November.
I see.
It's better than.
That was a better way than I said it.
Yeah.
Councilor Fajir.
You ready for the motion?
I am, yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, your worship, that town council for the town of Bridgewater approve an increase to the Glen Allen Connector Trail budget to $46,000 to enable the inclusion of the approved $10,000 Province of Nova Scotia Community Accessibility Grant for completion of the project as part of the 2017-18 budget.
Seconder, please. Councilor Graves, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Down to business arising and unfinished business. We have second and final reading of the amendment of Chapter 200, the Comprehensive Parking Bylaw. Is someone prepared to put a motion on the floor and then we can discuss it? Councilor McDonald?
I'd move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the second reading of the amended Chapter 200 Comprehensive Parking Bylaw as presented in document 18-023, adopt as bylaw and authorize staff to publish all public notices pursuant to Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act.
Have a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Tanner, discussion.
When does the bylaw? Yeah.
I knew that was coming. I could read your mind. Do you have a date? Is it, the bylaw enforcement officer, I think is the question
Yeah.
that Councilor Gray said. Do you
They've
have a-
started.
They've started?
They started this week.
This week. Okay.
I'd love to know how many times we asked that question.
Yeah.
And now now we don't have to ask anymore.
Yeah.
Bylaw enforcement started. Okay. Further questions on this? This is second reading, we kind of went through it.
And we can now collect fines when licenses are renewed or anything in Access Canada.
That
That's
is-
a done deal now.
That is correct. So,
Okay. So you have to
if you
pa-
don't
pay
pay
your
your parking
parking
ticket
tickets.
now, you will not be able to renew your license without paying for that parking ticket. So that is a change. Any other questions?
Nope.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Second and final reading, amendment to Chapter 191, Protection from Secondhand Smoke Bylaw. This was updated to basically anticipate the changes coming from the federal government and the legalization of cannabis. And so this is the second and final reading. Kind of went through this a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So I'm prepared to make a motion. Councilor Graves.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the second reading of the amended Chapter 191, Protection from Secondhand Smoke as presented in document 18-025, adopt as bylaw and authorize staff to publish all public notices pursuant to Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act.
Have a seconder, please. Councilor McDonald. I'm going to get whiplash. Any further discussion? Questions being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Policy 89, fees policy, amendments to the taxi fees. This is document 17-208B. So this is not the taxi bylaw. We dealt with that. This is, these are the fees that go with it. And as, just for an update for the public, as we've been doing, every time we update a bylaw that has fees baked into it, we try to pull those fees out and put them in a policy so we don't have to go through a first and second reading of a bylaw every time we want to change a fee. So this will at least allow us to adapt a little bit quicker. Are there any questions on the information that's there? Is someone prepared to make a motion?
Just a question. Those
Yes.
fees can be adjusted, right?
Correct.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the amended Policy 89 fees as presented in document 17-208B, and that the revised policy be implemented as policy for the Town of Bridgewater effective immediately.
Councilor Graves, seconding that?
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? No? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Next item is Bridgewater Elementary School Playground request for disbursement of funds. And as we've heard from members of the committee, that they've completed 30%, I think you said, Gail, 30% or so of Phase 1. And they've made a request that the second half of our funds be released. Those are in reserve, so it's not new money that we have to find. We have put that in reserve. So there's a couple of options there for council. What is your wish? Do you have any questions? It's a quiet group tonight.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
It's a good program. They do have a timeline. They have to move things forward. But at the same time, government shouldn't be up to government to fund. We should be the last people they should come to.
So, we've had this discussion before, and you know where we are, where we all believe in the project, and we want the project to go
Absolutely.
forward. We do struggle, not just with this project, but with a lot of projects where it's, and not just us, it's Municipality District of Lunenburg, it's other municipalities where the ask is to government first, and then fill in the gaps with the local business community or having to fundraise with parents versus going the other way around and then having the municipality fill in the gaps. So it's a bit of chicken and the egg, if you will, but it's a struggle for us because we have to, every dollar that we spend, we have to be able to justify. So, Councillor McDonald.
I would also like to see some of the feedback that we were looking for. We wanted the fundraising in place before we released the funds. We wanted to have that agreement in place and to know what the maintenance program was going to be, what it was going to look like. And we don't have any of that. We released 50% before having it, and now we're being asked to release the remaining 50% before having it as well. And I'm a little bit hesitant to do that.
So one of the options available is to refer this to staff and ask that they go back to the school board, ask where that document is, where we sit with that facilities agreement, and get that back to council so that this can move forward knowing that we have other things in place. That's one of the options. At the will of council.
Yeah, well, we did commit that money, in all fairness, to the playground committee. We released half of it. They got 30-some% of it done, either way. So I'll make a motion. The town council for the town of Bridgewater approve the request for the Bridgewater Elementary School Playground Committee. It's contained in document 17-002H and disperse the remaining grant amount of $36,441 to the Social Regional School Board from the Bridgewater BES Operating Reserve for the BES Playground Project.
Have a seconder, please.
I'll second that.
Tanner. Discussion.
I will say that I'm very pleased with your comments tonight, Gail and Marcy, specifically about how much progress you've made with grant applications and fundraising internally at the school. I think I was very, very pessimistic your first presentation around that there wasn't a whole lot of, didn't seem to be a whole lot of proactive movement, I guess. I knew you had a plan, but I guess I just didn't see, anticipate the results of that plan or see the vision of that plan, I guess. So pleased to see where you are tonight. I think some of the onus perhaps on that facility agreement sits with us perhaps, and so I'll be supporting this.
Councillor Thorburn.
Likewise, Sam and I walked down that quite a bit, and we see the progress being made there, the commitment that they've made to that unit, and it's for all the residents of the town to use, and I will be supporting the motion that I made.
Councillor Graves.
It's a great program, great project, but I'm just wondering if is 2 weeks going to make a huge difference in the scheme of things if we were to get a little bit more information from the school board? Is that going to set back the timeline for you people putting in grants?
It's not the grants, I think it's to be able to get out to tender.
Yeah, the tenders, and that's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah, an absolute deadline, we would say would be mid-April.
Yeah, or sooner. Yeah, or the March even really, because we obviously can't spend money that we don't have, so when we're putting it to somebody, we have to have it all secured, and we're kind of willing to do some other things that we.
Okay.
Question?
I just want to be sure everyone has a chance to speak before we go further. Councillor McDonald.
I've been in those shoes, and I really, really appreciate how long tenders take and deadlines, and this request needed to be part of that planning and needed to come to us sooner so that we would have the time to gather information if we needed it.
Councillor, is there anything?
I feel that there is a piece of the puzzle missing with the usage agreement. I understand where you're coming from, the timeline, so I'm a little bit torn here as to, can we delay the motion possibly
This can be
to
referred
get more information?
to the next meeting, if council so wishes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That's
I
the
don't think there's anything
That's
wrong.
the 26th.
To clarify.
We've made that commitment.
The issue is going to be if we refer this to the 26th. I mean, we've been a year now waiting for this agreement. The thought that in 2 weeks that we're going to get anywhere with all that I'm assuming, with all that they're going through now with, in those 2 weeks, that school board will be shaped a little differently. I'm as torn as I think everyone is. We've committed the funds, so
Yeah.
it's not a debate on how do we find the money, right? The money's set aside. And it's really not even a debate on will they get the money, because we've committed the money. It's just, do we have other things that we need answers to? And I wouldn't be unhappy with either, but I feel like there's
I think
enough questions from council that,
What comes back to mind is the onus with regards to the maintenance of the playground and the cost associated with that. I don't have a real comfort as to whose responsibility that is, if it's a community playground. So that's, for me, it's a little bit fuzzy.
and I think that was probably the first question we wanted to answer from the school board, was we wanted a commitment in writing that they would literally be able to afford to maintain this playground. And we had a couple of meetings where we didn't get that assurance. So I think we do still have some questions.
Yeah, but I think we had some sort of verbal commitment, and we've committed people to fund that. We had money in the budget for it, and I don't see why we would wait 2 weeks or 2 more weeks or 2 more months to allow a project that's that important for our children to set for the sake of the small ask that they've asked for. I think they deserve the funds. They should have the funds tonight so they can go forward and get some of the paperwork done.
Well, the motion is on the floor. We can
Question.
vote on the motion. Question's being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is defeated. So, so here's my suggestion. We will ask for that information from the school board and bring this back to council
Yep.
with that information.
Yes.
Can we please add that to the next agenda?
Yes.
So it will come back at the next meeting. Yeah, so just give us a couple more weeks. New business 2017-18 grants to organizations, the 4th intake period, February 1st. Councilor Fasheer, did you want to speak to that before we put a motion on the floor for that? There were a couple of applicants, but one recommendation.
Okay. At 11.0, right?
Yeah, 11.1.
I just had 11 point. But town council, so you want me to speak, or you want the motion on the floor first?
No, if you can speak to, just speak to the recommendation.
Yeah, so there's an upcoming event, so,
Yeah, the motion is actually under the
yeah,
adjournment. Is it?
it's under 11.
I can, oh, there it is.
11.0.
Yeah, there it is.
New
Yeah.
business.
So, yeah, it's an event that is hosted here at the Days Inn, I believe, and bringing a lot of people from away, and we looked at what it's bringing to the community, and we felt that the was warrant of their request. The request was $500, I believe, for the gardening grants, for the garden club that host an annual event here. So Bridgewater is the recipient for the annual event.
Would you care to put a motion on the floor
Sure.
for that, please?
That town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the Grants to Organization Committee and award $500 program and events grant to the Nova Scotia Association of Garden Clubs.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councilor Graves, further discussion?
Nope.
Yep, hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. that is all we have. We have an in-camera meeting after to discuss contract negotiations. As far as I know, Councillor McGuinness will be chairing the next council meeting. I am out of the country in Africa, working in orphanages with my family for a few weeks, and Deputy Mayor Tanner is out of town, hence the third signing authority. But Councillor McGuinness will be in the chair at the next meeting. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.